All right. So are you ready to explore some pretty out there ideas today?
Always.
Okay, good. Well, today we're diving into this whole world of conspiracy theories.
Ooh, fun.
And we're going to look at how they connect to our consciousness,
Okay.
both individually and collectively, you know?
Yeah.
And you specifically wanted to learn more about David Icke.
Yeah, he's a fascinating guy.
Yeah, so we're going to unpack some of his most, I guess you could say, thought-provoking concepts.
Yeah, some of them are definitely out there.
I have to admit, some of this stuff gets pretty wild.
Yeah, for sure.
But even if you don't buy into, everything Icke says,
Yeah.
his work, it really makes you think.
It really does.
Yeah.
It challenges your perspective.
Yeah, totally. So one of Icke's big ideas is this concept of the hassle-free zone.
Okay.
And he uses this term to describe, the pressure we feel to conform, to stay within the lines.
Right.
Even if it means, silencing our own thoughts and beliefs.
It's like that age-old thing.
Yeah.
Of wanting to fit in.
Totally.
Belonging to the group.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means just going along with things, even if we have doubts or we're not entirely sure.
Exactly. And Icke would say that
Yeah.
this desire for a hassle-free existence, just wanting to keep things smooth.
Right. Just wanting to avoid conflict.
Yeah, it can actually make us vulnerable
Yeah, absolutely.
to being manipulated.
It's like we're giving away our power in a way.
So it's not just about, avoiding awkward conversations at a family dinner.
No, it's much deeper than that.
Right, it's something deeper. It affects how we see the world.
Exactly.
Our place in it.
It shapes our whole reality.
Yeah, and Icke believes that the people in power, the ones who, set the boundaries, of acceptable thought.
The ones who define what's normal.
Yeah, they rely on this desire.
This deep human need to conform.
To conform.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the less we question things,
Mm-hmm.
the less we challenge the status quo.
The easier it is for them to stay in control.
The easier it is for them to maintain control.
Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of those experiments.
Oh, yeah.
The conformity experiments where people would go along with the group.
Oh, right. Even when they knew the answer was wrong.
Even when they knew the answer is wrong, just because they didn't want to stand out.
Exactly. It's that fear of being the odd one out.
Right.
And those are the Ash conformity experiments.
Yeah, the Ash conformity experiments.
Classic psychology.
Yeah, they show how powerful social pressure can be.
It's incredible how easily we can be swayed.
Right, even when it goes against our own judgment.
Like our gut is telling us one thing.
Yeah.
But we do the opposite just because everyone else is doing it.
And you see that everywhere.
Right, absolutely.
It's in the workplace.
In our relationships, our families.
On the media.
Everywhere. Yeah. So how does this whole hassle-free zone thing, how does it play into Icke's larger conspiracy theories?
Well, he argues that this desire to conform, this fear of rocking the boat, it basically creates a society where it's easy for a few to control the many.
We're so accustomed to just staying within the lines that we don't even realize we're being manipulated.
It's almost like those invisible fences they use for dogs.
Oh, yeah.
You stay within the boundaries not because there's a physical barrier,
right,
but because you've been conditioned to fear the consequences.
Yeah, you get a little zap.
Of crossing the line. Yeah. And Icke believes that those consequences aren't always overt or violent.
Right. Sometimes it's more subtle.
Yeah, it's the fear of being ostracized.
Ridicule.
Or labeled as crazy.
Labeled as crazy.
For thinking differently.
Yeah. So this fear of being different, it keeps us trapped in this hassle-free zone.
Right. We're playing it safe.
Which then allows those in power to stay in power.
To maintain control, yes.
It's a pretty bleak picture, isn't it?
It can seem that way.
Yeah.
But Icke also offers a way out.
Okay.
He says by becoming aware of these dynamics, by recognizing our own tendency to conform,
we can start to break free from that control.
So awareness is the first step.
Yes, awareness is key.
But how do we actually apply that awareness?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah, how do we actually live differently?
Right, how do we make it practical?
Yeah, how do we become less susceptible to manipulation?
Well, one way is to start paying attention to those moments when we feel pressured to conform, like when we bite our tongues, or go along with something we don't truly believe in.
Yeah.
And once we start to notice those patterns, we can choose to respond differently.
So it's about becoming more conscious.
Yeah, it's more intentional.
Of our own choices.
Exactly. And that leads us to another one of Icke's key concepts.
Okay.
This one's called the problem reaction solution tactic.
Problem reaction solution.
Yeah, it's a mouthful, I know.
Okay.
But it's a really important one.
All right, well, let's dive into that then.
Okay, so imagine this.
Okay.
You're watching a magician.
All right.
And they're doing this elaborate trick.
Okay.
And they're distracting you with one hand while they're doing something sneaky with the other hand.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So Icke's saying this problem reaction solution tactic.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that magician's sleight of hand.
Okay, so you're saying someone could, like, create a problem.
Yes.
Knowing it'll provoke a certain reaction.
Exactly.
From the public.
They know how people will react.
Yeah, and then they offer a pre-planned solution.
A solution that they already had up their sleeve.
That advances their own agenda?
Precisely.
Wow.
And often that solution actually expands their control.
Really?
Yeah. Even if it's presented as something necessary.
Like for our safety?
For our safety or well-being.
For the greater good?
Exactly.
Okay, I see where the conspiracy theory label comes in.
Yeah, Icke uses some pretty controversial examples to illustrate this point.
Like what?
Well, he talks about certain historical events that led to wars or expansions of government power.
Okay, so putting aside the specific examples for a second, isn't this just basic strategy?
That's a great question.
Yeah, like, isn't this how a lot of things get done?
It is a common pattern.
Even in everyday life.
Think about marketing, for example.
Okay.
Companies often create a need or a problem that their product then conveniently solves.
Right.
Or in politics.
Okay.
A candidate might highlight a social issue to stir up fear or outrage.
To get people riled up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then present themselves as the only one who can fix it.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how this applies beyond just like those big dramatic conspiracy theories.
Right. It's a more widespread phenomenon.
Yeah. It's about recognizing patterns of manipulation, whether it's happening on like a global scale or in our personal relationships.
Exactly. It's about being aware of the game that's being played.
So if we're constantly being bombarded with information...
We're drowning in it?
With these attempts to, like, manipulate our thoughts and emotions?
Right, it's a constant barrage.
How do we even begin to sort through it all?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah, how do we develop, like, that inner compass?
Yeah.
Discernment that allows us to see through the smoke and mirrors?
That's where Icke's ideas get really interesting.
Okay.
And where that spiritual element comes in.
The spiritual element.
Yeah. He believes that the answer lies within each of us.
Okay.
We have this innate capacity for intuition.
Okay.
For seeing beyond the illusions of the world.
So you're saying we all have this inner wisdom.
He believes so, yes.
This ability to, like, discern truth from falsehood.
It's like a built-in lie detector.
Even in a world that's constantly trying to mislead us.
Even in a world of fake news and propaganda.
Wow.
He sees it as our birthright.
Our birthright?
A connection to something greater than ourselves.
Oh, okay.
To a universal consciousness that holds the truth.
A universal consciousness.
Yes.
Okay, but if this inner wisdom is so powerful,
right,
why aren't we all just like walking around enlightened?
Good question.
And immune to manipulation?
Well, Icke would say it's because we've been conditioned to ignore that inner voice.
Oh.
We've been taught to doubt our own intuition.
Yeah, to look outside ourselves for answers.
To rely on external authorities.
Instead of trusting what we already know deep down.
Instead of listening to our own hearts.
So it's almost like we have this internal GPS system.
That's a great analogy.
But we've been relying on, like, faulty maps.
Yeah, we're following the wrong directions.
And getting lost along the way.
Lost in a sea of information.
And those faulty maps, they come in many forms, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like limiting beliefs.
Societal programming.
Fear-based narratives.
The stories we tell ourselves.
All that stuff.
All of it clouds our perception.
Keeps us trapped.
In these cycles of fear and manipulation.
Okay, so how do we get back to that?
Okay.
Inner knowing, that intuitive wisdom.
Well, Icke suggests some pretty practical techniques, many of which are rooted in ancient wisdom traditions.
Like what?
Meditation is a big one.
Oh, okay.
Spending time in nature.
Okay.
Journaling, creative expression.
Okay.
Even just paying attention to our dreams.
Oh, wow.
And those subtle gut feelings we often ignore.
Okay.
These are all ways of reconnecting with that inner voice.
It's interesting because a lot of what he's saying actually aligns with modern psychology and mindfulness practices.
Absolutely.
It's about becoming more aware.
More present.
Of our thoughts and emotions.
And the stories we tell ourselves and the patterns that keep us stuck.
Exactly. And this awareness is crucial because Icke believes that our thoughts and emotions, they actually have a tangible impact on the world.
They ripple outwards.
He talks about this concept of energy fields.
Yes.
About how our individual energy contributes to a collective consciousness.
That shapes our reality.
Okay, that's where I start to get a little lost.
I hear.
Energy fields.
Yeah, it's definitely pushing the boundaries.
Collective consciousness. It sounds a bit woo-woo.
It can sound a bit out there.
even for me, and I'm open to this stuff, but even if we strip away some of the
the more esoteric language.
The more esoteric language.
I think there's a valuable insight here.
Which is?
That our individual choices, our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, they all contribute to the world we live in.
Yeah.
We're not just passive observers.
Right, yeah.
We're active participants.
Yeah.
Co-creators of reality.
Co-creators.
And Icke believes that by becoming more conscious of our inner world, we can start to influence the outer world in a more positive direction.
So it's not just about escaping from the matrix.
No, it's not about running away.
Or hiding from the evil forces that are supposedly controlling everything.
It's not about fear and paranoia.
It's about taking responsibility
for our own energy, our own thoughts and emotions.
And using that power to create change.
Exactly. It's about empowerment.
This idea of taking back our power.
Yes, reclaiming our sovereignty.
Is a recurring theme in Icke's work.
It's central to his message.
But how do we actually do that?
That's the key question, right?
Yeah, it's one thing to talk about energy fields and collective consciousness.
Right.
But how do we translate that into concrete actions?
Into real-world change.
That make a real difference.
That's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, and that's what we'll dig into after the break.
Sounds good. So where were we?
We were talking about how Icke believes that our thoughts and emotions actually have a real impact.
Right, like a tangible impact.
On the world around us.
He talks about this idea of energy fields.
Energy fields?
Yeah, it's like this invisible web that connects us all.
Okay, and how does that relate to individual versus collective consciousness?
Well, he says that our individual energy kind of feeds into this larger collective consciousness.
So we're all contributing to this big soup of energy.
Exactly, and that soup is what shapes our reality.
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
It's a bit mind-bending.
It is, but I'm curious. So is he saying that, if enough people believe in something, it can actually become real?
He would say that our beliefs, our thoughts, our emotions, they create a certain frequency.
Okay.
And that frequency attracts similar frequencies.
So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, kind of?
In a way, yes.
Okay, so this is where I start to get a little...
I
don't know, skeptical.
It's definitely pushing the boundaries of conventional thought.
It is. I mean, energy fields, collective consciousness, it sounds a bit woo even for me.
I get it.
But I'm open to the possibility
that
there's more to reality than we currently understand.
Right. And even if we strip away some of the more mystical language, I think there's a valuable insight here.
What is it?
That our individual choices, they matter.
Okay.
Our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, they all ripple outwards and affect the world around us.
So we're not just passive observers.
We're active participants.
We're co-creating this reality.
Exactly. And that's a powerful idea.
It is. It's kind of scary too, though, right?
It can be, but it's also incredibly liberating.
How so?
Because if we're contributing to the problems through our fear, our negativity, our unconscious choices, we can also be part of the solution.
By shifting our energy.
By making more conscious choices.
By choosing love over fear.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm starting to see the connection here between Icke's conspiracy theories and his spiritual beliefs.
It's all interconnected.
It's like he's saying that the same forces that are manipulating us externally are also operating within us.
On a deeper level.
Through our own fears and limiting beliefs.
And that's why he emphasizes the importance of self-awareness.
Of waking up to those patterns.
Of taking back our power.
So this idea of taking back our power.
Yeah, reclaiming our sovereignty.
It's not just about fighting against some external enemy.
Right, it's an inside job.
It's about overcoming the enemy within.
The enemy of our own minds.
Our own fears, our own negativity.
Our own self-sabotaging tendencies.
Yeah, and I think that's a message that resonates with a lot of people.
It's a universal human struggle.
Yeah, we all have those inner battles.
Between fear and love.
Between doubt and belief.
Between limitation and possibility.
And Icke is saying that the way to win those battles
is to connect with that deeper wisdom within.
To tap into that inner power.
That source of love and truth.
So it's about a spiritual revolution.
A revolution of consciousness.
Yeah, it's about transforming ourselves.
From the inside out.
And then that transformation ripples outwards.
Into the world around us.
Creating a more positive reality for everyone.
That's the vision.
And I think that's a vision that a lot of people are hungry for.
People are yearning for change.
They're tired of the old systems.
The old ways of being.
They're looking for something new.
Something more authentic.
Something more meaningful.
And I think Icke is offering a path.
A map to navigate this new territory.
A way to tap into our own potential.
To create a world that's more aligned with our highest values.
A world of love and unity.
Yeah, and while some of his ideas might seem
out there,
yeah.
I think his core message is really about hope.
It's about empowerment.
It's about believing that we can create a better future.
And that starts with each of us.
One person at a time.
Making a choice.
To choose love over fear.
To step into our power.
To become the change we want to see in the world.
And to remember that we're not alone in this journey.
We're all connected.
We're all part of something much larger than ourselves.
Then together,
we can create a world that's truly worthy of our humanity.
That's the dream.
And I think it's a dream worth fighting for.
Absolutely.
So what are some practical things people can do?
Yeah, let's get into that.
To start making that shift.
To start embodying that change.
From fear to love.
From powerlessness to empowerment.
Icke offers a lot of specific advice.
He does.
On how to cultivate awareness.
How to connect with our intuition.
How to live a more conscious and purposeful life.
We'll dive into some of those suggestions right after this.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of mind-bending stuff.
We have.
From Icke's hassle-free zone to the whole problem-reaction solution thing. And even this idea of a collective consciousness.
Right.
That's shaped by our individual energy.
It's all connected.
But let's get practical.
Okay.
What can we actually do?
Yeah.
Starting today.
Like right now.
To tap into that inner power.
Yeah.
And move from fear to love.
Icke suggests a whole bunch of practices.
Okay.
And what works for one person might not work for another.
Right.
It's about finding what feels right for you.
Yeah. Finding your own path.
Exactly.
But there are some common threads in his recommendations.
Yeah, for sure.
So what are some of those core practices?
Meditation's a big one.
Meditation, okay.
He sees it as a way to quiet the mind, connect with that deeper wisdom within, and cultivate a sense of inner peace.
Yeah, I've tried meditation before.
Yeah.
But I always struggle to clear my mind.
It's common.
My thoughts just race even faster.
It's like they're trying to escape.
Yeah, exactly. Any tips for a meditation newbie?
Just be patient with yourself.
Okay.
Don't get discouraged if your mind wanders.
Right.
Just gently guide your attention back.
Back to my breath.
To your breath or whatever you're focusing on.
Okay.
Even a few minutes a day can make a difference.
So it's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly.
Well.
Spending time in nature is another big one.
Being in nature, yeah.
He believes that being in nature helps us to ground ourselves.
Okay.
Connect with the earth's energy.
Right.
And remember that we're part of something much bigger.
Yeah, I totally feel that. Whenever I go for a hike in the woods or a walk on the beach, I just feel more centered.
Yeah, it's like hitting the reset button.
Exactly. What about creativity?
Oh, yeah. He's big on that, too.
I remember him talking about that.
He emphasizes the power of creative expression as a way to tap into our intuition, process emotions, and connect with that deeper part of ourselves.
So whether it's painting, writing, dancing, playing music.
Whatever lights you up.
Even just doodling in a notebook. The key is to find an outlet.
An outlet for that creative energy.
It allows us to express ourselves freely.
Without judgment.
Without judgment, yeah.
Just let it flow.
So meditation, nature, creativity, those are some great starting points.
They are.
But Icke also talks about taking action, right?
He does.
In the real world.
Yeah.
It's not just about inner work.
It's about walking the talk.
Yeah, aligning our actions with our values.
Exactly.
But sometimes it feels like our individual actions are just a drop in the bucket.
You know what you mean.
How can we stay hopeful when the problems in the world seem so overwhelming?
Icke would say that even the smallest acts of kindness and courage can have a ripple effect.
Okay.
He believes that when we choose love over fear, compassion over judgment, action over apathy, we contribute to a collective shift in consciousness.
So it's not about waiting for someone else to fix the world.
No, we're all responsible.
It's about becoming part of the solution.
One step at a time.
One conscious choice at a time.
Exactly.
And it's about remembering that we're not alone.
Right. There's a whole community out there.
Of people who are waking up
to these truths.
Choosing love over fear.
Yeah.
Working together to create a better world.
It's a growing movement.
And that's really encouraging.
It is.
Because it's easy to feel isolated.
When you're questioning the status quo.
Yeah, when you're exploring these alternative perspectives.
But knowing that there are others out there we're on a similar path.
It makes all the difference.
It does.
This has been a truly fascinating deep dive.
It has.
We've explored some pretty wild concepts and some practical strategies for personal and collective transformation.
For creating a better world.
And while some of Icke's ideas might be controversial or challenging, his core message about self-empowerment
and the power of love
is something we can all take to heart.
It's a message that resonates deeply.
It does. And to our listener, we hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought.
Yeah, some new perspectives.
And some inspiration to embark on your own journey
of awakening.
Remember, the power to create change lies within each of us.
You have the power.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.